the biggest surprise, that you were totally different and Christina was different than Patty. Everyone had their own personalities and their own characteristics. And I think that what I think most people don't realize is that it depends when kids are born, that has maybe an effect on it. And I'm not an astrologist or anything like this, but I think that you see some kind of things there that certain characteristics, but also it depends so much on if you are the first child versus the second child versus the last child, how you get treated. Not so much by me, but by your mother, right? I mean, I think that that fathers, well, I should also say, make it clear that I think I have to take Father's Day with a grain of salt, to be honest with you, because just simply the fact that I believe that the majority of times children are spending with their mothers. So I think mothers should get the heavy weight of they have the heavy weight of the responsibility, but also should get the kind of the reward and the celebration, because I think when I think back of raising your kids, I was on a movie set a lot of times. I was making movies. I was trying to make a living and make a lot of money for the family so we can live well in a nice house and have a place in Sun Valley and take you skiing and taking around the world and all this stuff. So, that takes money, obviously. So you have to work. But at the other hand is that you're not spending as much time with the kids. And so your mother was really responsible to kind of hold the fortress at that point and to raise you guys. And I then came in, like I said, 20, 30%, if I'm lucky. And but I think what the question is really what was a surprise to me, what was a surprise is that each one of you, with the same upbringing, the same attention, the same school, the same everything, you were so different. And then you have to, as a parent, have to adjust to those kind of differences. What are the various different needs that each child has, and then, kind of go with that.
Yeah, well, I also think it has to do with the fact that, what you were doing as our dad when Christina and I were little was very different than what you were doing when Christopher and Patrick were little, because you were governor. So it was a different dynamic that had to play into it as well, that, requires different needs of attention and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I didn't even think about that. First of all, I think it's very important for everyone to know how much your kids hated my job. I mean, there was no one. I mean, it was one of those kind of odd things where I just felt like, oh, my kids will be so proud of me being governor now and all that stuff. But I don't think that you guys really kind of connected to that and didn't really understand it that well. You were still young, very young. And I think that you were so used to kind of like what we were doing when I was on a movie set. That you were used to that I would have my driver pick you up from school, take you to the movie trailer. Outside the movie studio, inside the movie studio, and you were doing your homework there. And then, every so often I was called to the set, and you would come with me to the set and then watch me blow up a few buildings there, or just have some fight scene or some scene, and you would just this was your entertainment. So when you think about after school programs, you guys had like the perfect after school program. You had the tutoring there, you had all the crayons there, you had all the toys there to play with when you were very young, and then you could come to the set and we were taking pictures and having a lot of fun and all that stuff. So when you went to Sacramento, I remember you saying to me, says, "Dad, I hate your job." And I said, "Why do you hate my job?" And you said to me, she says, "Everyone around here is running around in a stupid black suit and with a tie, and they all look so serious. There was much more fun on a movie set where we were kind of making paintings and drawing with the crayons and building blocks and then playing with the toys and all of that stuff and going to the set and watching you do films. That was fun. Why did you take us out of this fun? Why did you change?"
Valid question.
And that was a valid question, exactly, very valid question. But I mean, the bottom line was, I had this fixation about, fixing the state and making the state better. And so that's why I ran from one moment to the next when there was a recall. And we had long discussions with your mother about what would that mean for the family. And your mother made it very clear to me, because she went through that as a kid. where she was dragged around from one press conference to the other when her father ran for vice president and when her father ran eventually for president. And when he was the head of the Peace Corps and all of this stuff, that she was dragged around sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning, shaking hands outside a factory in New Hampshire in a freezing cold. And she hated it. She didn't like that. And so she felt like, oh my God, I'm now going into this profession, and your kids will be dragged around and the family will be dragged around. So we came to an agreement that we would not use the family at all for any of this political stuff. And I think it was good because she has gone through it, and she really was very good in keeping the two separate.
Yeah, that's also one of the biggest things that people always ask us kids about is how you and mom gave us such a normal upbringing, even though you were, we did go to movie sets, you were governor and mom was first lady, but yet we had a very normal upbringing. I always try to tell people, like, we had a very normal childhood, despite what people might think about, having you and mom be in the roles that you guys were in. We were very normal kids.
Right. I mean, excuse me, but I mean, for you to call it your upbringing normal is really a little bit mind-blowing, I have to say. So sorry, I'm a little bit, I have to smirk on my face because I said to myself, what is your normal? I mean, I think that your upbringing was not normal, and I don't think my upbringing was normal, nor do I think Maria's upbringing was normal. I don't think there's anything normal here. I mean, that first of all, from the financial point of view, I think from the privileges point of view, I think, we had chauffeurs and we had security and we had all this kind of stuff, which is kind of, you guys were going, when I was governor, you were walking around with security guards, with the CHP.
Well, we didn't have a choice, Dad.
I'm not saying you had a choice. You don't have a choice also who you're born into. You had no choice of who your mother and your father is. Certain things we don't have any choices, but I mean, the bottom line is, I would say that we made an unbelievable attempt. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you probably are meaning, is to make you guys grow up normal. Yes. Meaning that you have, normal friends over to the house, that you have play dates, that we take you guys to the playground and do the normal things, go to the beach, and have go to a normal school, and not to do this kind of strange stuff. But I mean, it was a very good community school where the community came together, where the parents came together. We took you to church regularly, all of this kind of thing. So that was all kind of normal. And
you came to our soccer games on the weekends. Like, we did all the things that were, our friends were doing. And you and mom never took us to premieres growing up. You wanted us to have our own identity. You didn't have us, our faces out everywhere. It was a big gift. I always say one of the biggest gifts you gave to us kids was allowing us to kind of step into our own identity as we got older. Having, two very well-known parents was a big part of that.
I give, like you say, I give your mother the credit for that, because I didn't grow up like that. Mm-hmm. So therefore I was not trained, to make the adjustments. She was trained because she grew up like that. She grew up privileged. She grew up in a family that had money. She grew up in a family that had power. She grew up in a family that knew a lot of people and they had connections and all that stuff. So she knew how to safeguard and how to protect your kids from all of this that could happen. And so, because we wanted you all to grow up, and you're asking me what is the biggest surprise. That's like a big can of worms, right, to open up. Because I mean, the one other thing that just came to my mind was that your mother grew up different than me. Yeah. And I grew up totally different than her. Mm-hmm. So therefore, now I'm growing up in a different country, in Austria, after the Second World War. So there was, starvation, there was famine, there was soldiers walking around all the time. We were occupied by foreign forces, and by the French, by the British, by the Americans, by the Russians. And so there were all these soldiers around and all of this. And so there was a certain discipline there, and there was a certain harshness there. People were drinking, and people were violent, and they were hitting. The spouses were hit. It was quite frequently happening around the neighborhood and stuff. Kids were hit all the time. So here was this upbringing, and then here was your mother's upbringing that was kind of I would say, a much softer kind of upbringing. A gentler one that was supportive oh, Maria did really well on this. This is fantastic. I think your horseback riding is great. Oh, you got another ribbon. Isn't that wonderful? You know, this is how Maria was feeling. And with me, it was kind of like, you just lost a soccer game. What's the matter with you, you loser? I have a son as a loser. I can't even believe it. What's going on here? Tomorrow we're going to train 2 hours a day. So this was kind of the difference. So now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because now you say to yourself, okay, how am I going to raise my kids? I couldn't raise
two very different backgrounds.
I couldn't raise you like I did. I was raised in
Thank
Austria.
God.
To start smacking you around and kicking your ass, and then to go and to say you're a loser. You didn't go and jump that jump that you wanted to jump. No, I wanted to shift, and I wanted to say to myself, this has to discontinue. This generation will discontinue this behavior of what I grew up with, and the alcoholism and all of this. So I didn't drink, and I did the opposite. And I was very carefully observing your mother and how she was always encouraging your kids. And so I did the same thing. So when Patrick would come to me and says, oh my God, I tripped over the soccer ball just before I could kick it into the goal. And so, oh, this is terrible. We're going to lose. And I said, no, Patrick, you have been fantastic with your soccer game. You have been so full of energy. And you pass the ball back and forth just like an expert. You just made one mistake. I said, the second half of the game, you're going to win. And they did win. You know, so I learned how to be positive, and I think I learned a lot of that from your mother, who was like that, very supportive to all of your kids and whatever you did. Even when you made a mistake, even when you wiped out skiing and crossed your skis nose, she said, oh, Kathleen, you tried really hard. Don't worry about it. Don't cry now. We're going to get some hot chocolate. I said, there is no hot chocolate. They have to ski 2 hours a day minimum, and then they get the hot chocolate. Maria said, oh my God, oy vey. What is going on? Yeah.
But I think that's why it worked so well, is because I was talking yesterday to Al Roker, and he was saying how him and his wife are very different parents, but how they complement each other. And I think you and Mom did that really well, because you both complemented each other, you know, with the different strengths that you both came into our family with. And one of the big questions that everybody always asked, wanting to know from you, was what you brought from your childhood and your upbringing in Austria into your role as parenting. And I always talk about, how strict you and Mom were with rules, and especially you with chores and with discipline. And especially also how when I was growing up and you would, for people who don't know the rules that we had, we weren't allowed to have cell phones until we were in high school. We were the only kids out of all of our friend group that had a curfew. We had chores at our house. We had to do our own laundry, make our bed. And if we didn't, you would call us, even as governor would call us and have us come home from wherever we were, even if it was our prom or semi-formal, to make sure that we followed through with all of our chores. We took care of our animals. So you really instilled all of that in us, a sense of responsibility, working hard from a very, very early age. And I, growing up, was always upset that we had to do those things, because we were like the only kids in LA that I felt like that had to do that. But now, as a parent myself, I always call you and tell you, I'm like, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I didn't like that you guys did. I'm going to do the exact same thing now, as a parent, as a step parent, because it taught us so much about a variety of different things, but also just about life in general, about, doing your laundry, basic things that as a kid I hated learning about, but it was very important to you, especially, to make sure that we did that. And I think that also came a lot from your upbringing.
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right, and that I felt that I had a huge advantage in a way, the way I grew up, because it gave me the discipline and the drive and the fire in the belly and the will to succeed in all of those kind of things. And so I think that because of that upbringing, I felt like you guys would not have those privileges of the tough kind of an upbringing, the discipline, because it's a different time now, and different parents and all of that kind of stuff. And then because we didn't believe to do that same kind of a treatment that I got as a kid, right? And so I said, but still, I think it is important to teach them the disciplines and the things that I felt was important. And maybe I went overboard sometimes, that could easily be. But, I insisted that when you walk out of the room, that the lights get turned out. I said, there's a limited amount of electricity, and we have to go and save electricity. So we
And
all
what
should
happened if we
participate.
didn't turn off our lights?
Well, when you didn't turn out the light, I would then unscrew a light bulb in the chandelier. And I remember that Patrick came to me one time very cocky and said, Daddy, that doesn't mean anything to me when you undo a light bulb, unscrew a light bulb. I said, because there's 8 light bulbs on the chandelier. I have all the light in the world in my room. So I said, yeah, I totally understand it. I said, but I'm also very good in math. That each day when we subtract 1 light bulb, eventually the 8 will run out, right? So anyway, so the second day, unscrew the light bulb when you didn't turn out the light. The third day, the 5th day, this is how it went on. And then all of a sudden, he was sitting there at the table and crying. And Maria was saying to me, he says, he's crying because he's afraid of going to his room. I said, why? I said, because it's dark. It's dark in the room. I said, oh, there we are. I said, see, Patrick, isn't it interesting? I said, that it is very tough to go in that room. I said, so do I have a promise now from you that if I put the lights back, that you would then turn out your lights? And he said, yes. And from then on, he always turned it out. And that's, so I think there's things like that. And I remember that there was times when one of the kids didn't make their beds, and then I would just go and rip down all of the bed sheets and the pillows and threw it out the window down the balcony from our house.
And this is not a joke. Like, you people need to understand that, like, this, I remember one time that one of us, I think it was Patrick, didn't make his bed, or Christopher, and the bed sheets, including the comforter, were off the balcony downstairs, and nobody left their bed unmade ever again. And
well, it was not only that, but there was one time also where the maid, I forbid the maids to touch your guys' rooms. I said, you have to clean the room, you should scrub the showers, and you should wash your clothes and wash your towels. I taught all of you how to do that. You know, how much detergent goes in there, how you turn on the machine. And then I even told you, I said, in the morning, you put the laundry in. I said, you're not going to wait until the laundry is finished. I'm going to take you to school, or your mother takes you to school. I said, but then when you come home from school, then you take the laundry out and put it in the dryer. And then you let it be in the dryer. I said, so it's a very easy rhythm so that each one of you kids can do the things. And all. I said, well, one day I detected that secretly the maid went in there and she washed your bed sheets because I just happened to catch it. And so then I was so angry. So I went into the room, I put the fresh bed sheets off, took the mattress, dragged it out the door of the balcony and threw the mattress down at the balcony. So then when whoever it was, I cannot remember, but I think it was Lindsay. Each one of you had some kind of a shortcoming with those kind of disciplines. One wanted to cheat with the laundry, one wanted to cheat with the bed making, one wanted to cheat with the shower, scrubbing, and all of this kind of things. You had to wash the dishes also. So there was always some cheating going on that I detected. So I had to, of course, come up with some punishments. And so those were the punishments.
I mean, I think that they worked very well because now I make my bed every single morning and I love doing laundry. So I feel like you taught us very well about all those things. But when
I think it worked and it was a lot of fun, but I needed your mother's cooperation in that at the same time. That was the key thing. And we always, just from the beginning on, we always said, look, we can argue about anything. Not that we did, because there was never really much reasons for any of those arguments, but one thing we said was when it comes to raising the kids, we should never argue about that. We should always kind of talk about it, but not with the kids in front of us or kind of interrupting. Or if I say, do this, Patrick, that you don't come and say, don't be so tough on him in front of him. So that never happened. No matter what your mother said to your kids that you need to do with education, with schools, and with homework, and with this and that, I never interfered with that. Even though sometimes I thought, well, I think there's a better way of doing it or something. I would never say anything. And she never would say anything to me and correct me in front of you. So we always were totally in sync. And I think that this is one of the secrets to parenting, is that the two parents have to be in sync. Why? Because I think it is like kids are intuitively very, very smart about playing you against the other person. So if they know that dad is tough, then they go to the mother. And if they get away with it, that she's then soft about something, then they will go there, or the other way around. So what we wanted to do is make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think you guys did that really well. I mean, you guys complemented each other with, you know, the rules and the nurturing, and it was
I
a
love, yeah, Catherine, I love, and I tell you this because Father's Day is in 2 days. There's nothing that I love more than when you call me and you say, guess what I did today? I say, what? And then you say to me, she says, I told the Jack, which is, of course, Chris's son, I
yeah.
told the Jack, if he doesn't take his tennis shoes away, leaving them lying around, I'm going to burn them in a fire and I'm going to have him watch burning them in a fire. And then
Because
she
well,
said, so
that
I said
that's
to him, I said, well, that sounds like what I did. She says, yes. And I hated it when you did that to me. I remember when you one time took my tennis shoes and put it right in the fireplace and burned them because I left them out 6 times in a row and I didn't put them away. And she says, I'm doing the same thing to Jack now. Can you believe I'm doing the same thing? I'm like you. I think there's a great method, you keep saying to me. So
yeah.
you were like crying when I did it.
I
Now all
well,
of a sudden
Patrick,
you say it's a
yeah,
great method.
everybody was crying, and then of course, you know, we had to watch you. We watched you do it one time with someone's shoes. I think it was actually Christopher's pair of shoes that you actually legit burned.
Yeah.
But this time, I explained to him after I called you, this is what you used to do to us in order to teach us about taking care of things that we have and taking care and pride in caring for our belongings, being responsible, putting things away. And then I remember I brought him over to your house and you were like, and he said, is that the fireplace that you burned? You burned Catherine and Patrick and Christina and Christopher's shoes in? And I was like, I'm not going to do it to you for real, but this is what we used to have when we were growing up. So now we can learn to put the shoes away. So it's teaching kids about responsibility, which I think you did very well with us. And it's something definitely that as adults, I think we all look back on and we're so grateful. And it also makes for great stories now.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But you know, one of the most common things is now, I think it's also important I think for everyone to know is that when we go skiing, you always compliment, you know, your mother and me, and you say, thank you so much for making us ski. Even though we didn't like it, it was cold and it was uncomfortable and blah, blah, blah. But now we can ski with all of our friends and we never have to be embarrassed with our skiing skills. We ski the moguls, we ski the powder, we ski the ice, we ski all the circuit, whatever the conditions are, we can ski this. It is so great. Thanks for making us ski. So that is the interesting thing about parenting, that the rewards sometimes don't come right away because the kids will cry and the kids will complain and you will look, you know, kind of mean and all this stuff. But then eventually now, I mean, like I said, it's for me the greatest pleasure when you call me and says, oh, that was such a great idea, the way you made us do X, Y, and Z, because I'm doing the same thing now with my kid. You know,
Yeah,
so that, I think it's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, it's important. And then as we've gotten older and as adults, I know that you've talked a little bit about just like having adult kids and also the adjustment. Mom's talked about it as well, of being a parent to kids versus being a parent to adult children and having that be a friendship versus the dynamic of, you know, what it was when we were little. What has it been like for you to have adult kids?
Well, first of all, there was another thing that, you know, you learn so many things when you're a parent, right? Because it's not like, well, some people do it over again, you know, they maybe get remarried at the age of 7 and have kids, and then they maybe can learn. But by that time it's over anyway, because you're then a different person because you're older. But I mean, I think that the thing is that you think that you're going to be around for 18 years. And then we're going to go and take you around the country like they do in America, unlike Austria. We take you around the country to choose a university that you want to go to. And then you will be out of the house. Gone.
Not with me.
Oh, no. This is not what happened. So, and you know, this is what you think, and then you kind of like are happy about that idea. Oh, when we're 18, then from then on, we can do things again. We don't get tied down. No. I mean, the parenting continues on. You have continuously responsibilities. Kids will come to you for things at the age of 22, at the age of 25 and the age of 30. And but this is exactly what it's about. As much as we parents come to you for things, that's as much as you come to us, and we always wanted to make sure that you understand, no matter how old you are, no matter what you need, you can always come to us. And you know, even though your mother and I, we are separated, but I mean, we are one team. We're one team, and we your kids so much. And every time we get together, we always talk about how proud we are of our parenting and of your kids. I mean, it's like unlike anything else. I think this is one of the, even though your mother and I, we accomplished a lot, but I think that is actually one of the greatest accomplishments that we have had.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we end, because you're a new grandfather, let's just talk about that for a moment. We have a lot of fun with you as being Opa, which everybody's like, what is your dad? What do you have your daughter call your dad? And it's going to be Opa. But what is the most surprising thing so far in the 10 months that you've been a grandfather? What's been the most fun part about it?
The fun part about it is that I can disconnect. I mean, it's like I come over to your house, or you come over here, and we play around with Lulu and with whiskey, and we sit there, Lila, on top of them, and we hold her, and I hold her, Lulu, whiskey, and then they buck and they run off, and then all of a sudden you hold Lila in the air, and then she's gone, and all that. I said, all of this stuff. I said, but after 2 hours, you go home with Lila. So then there's no more responsibility for me now. So this is like, so you're able as a grandparent, you're able to disconnect. So therefore you can put all of this energy. So when Lila comes over here, or even when you bring over Jack, I can go and be just involved and have Jack go and clean out the stables and clean out the manure. I almost said shit, but I mean, supposed to say that. But
and wrangle the horses.
From the horses and from the stable, and and he was very smart, and he says, how much are you paying me? And I said to him, well, how much do you want? And he says, I want to have $9 minimum. And then I said, okay, you got $9 minimum. And he started shopping the stuff, and he started cleaning the stables. So that's all fun to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like a 24 hours a day where you have to now figure out, what do you do with him from 6 to 8? What do you do at 8 o'clock? And then take them to bed and then read bedtime stories. So with you guys, it was an ongoing thing. But when you're grandparents, there is a switch, an on switch and an off switch. When you're gone, then it is your problem. You deal with it, and I'm again back to reading my scripts or reading some research or doing something or making some FaceTimes or phone calls or Zoom meetings or something like that. I go on with my life. And so that's really the big difference. So I learned that that's actually a lot of fun. Not that it was not fun raising your kids, but being a grandfather, that is really a fun thing, is to see your daughter have this beautiful child and to see your daughter actually becoming a parent. Is another really eye-opening thing for me to watch you become this mother that is glued to this kid 24 hours a day. With the breastfeeding and with the sleeping and with the eating and with the this and the that and the resting and carrying around. I don't know where you got the strength from, because you hold Lila sometimes on your arm for an hour while we are just talking or something like this. I couldn't hold a baby for an hour. I mean, it's impossible, right? I mean, it's amazing how much strength it takes. But I mean, just to see a different Catherine come out, because when you become a mother, there's a different person coming out. I mean, this selfless kind of a person, that is just not about you now. It's all about the baby. And that I can see all the time when I watch you and when you talk to her, when you send me photographs and fun with her and all this. I mean, so that to me is just a whole other dimension that you don't think about when you are becoming a father the first time. That you kind of watch this little baby become a woman and then get married and then have a kid, and then you watch her become a mother or become him become a father and all that. So this is a great additional things that I've enjoyed and learned.
Oh, that's so nice, Dad. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I loved
so
this
now go and grill Chris now.
I'm not going to troll
I'm
him.
curious. I'm curious what he's going to say now. Oh, Catherine, you're such a wonderful mother. I love you so much. The first time when I fell in love with you, you know, I mean, like, what the hell? All right. I cannot wait to watch this.
Oh gosh, Dad, I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, well, I love you. Thank you for doing this, and we'll see. I'm gonna see you soon because it's Father's Day.
Yes, you're going to see each other on Sunday, or maybe before then. Exactly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Love you.
I love you too. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dad.
See you. Bye-bye. You're good.